Okay.
So I am so excited today. If you are second guessing yourself, you will want to tune in as we have our guest, Laura, who is here to help us tune into our inner wisdom. So, welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's good to be here.
I am really excited. First, I'd love to chat about unleashing your superpowers and finding your soul's master plan. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yes, I can. Okay, so I started out after college and went to work at a big corporation, one of the top five consult or like accounting firms in Chicago. And I was there for about 2 years when 9/11 happened, and shortly after that, the Enron scandal, if you're old enough to remember that. I was working for the accounting firm that worked for Enron, which does not exist anymore. So, my accounting firm that I worked at. And I was very disillusioned by being in corporate America and doing all of that work and not really being connected to the work. And so I decided to go back to school to become a high school Spanish teacher. So I did that, and I did that for about 6 years, and I just burnt myself out. It just was too much. I'm an empath, so it's like too much energy, too much teenage hormones, like all day long. And I eventually just quit that job. I was teaching yoga at the time, and so I started transitioning more to teaching yoga. But what catalyzed me quitting was this very strange food allergy that came on out of nowhere. And my father is a family physician, so I asked him to order a blood panel. I was like, I think it's food allergies. So I got this blood panel done, and it was showing all of these food allergies, eggs, tomatoes, all this stuff. And my eosinophil count, if you're a medical person, is one of your white blood cells. It was up at like 58, and it's supposed to be between 0 and 8. So it was really high and actually dangerously high. So I immediately cut those foods out, but did not start feeling better. Then I went to a skin prick allergy doctor, and he brought his little like medical intern in to look at my case that was so wild. He's never seen an eosinophil count that high, and I'm thinking that is not helping. But so he's does the skin prick test, and he gives me a list of all these foods that I'm reacting to, and he tells me that most of them I'll probably be able to eat again after a few weeks of cutting them out. And he says to me, "You're never going to be able to eat eggs again." And I love brunch. But in that moment, I was kind of paralyzed by everything that was going on. But when he said that, I heard this really loud no in my head. And so I finished the appointment, cried for a while, and then decided that I was not going to live like that. So I asked my yoga friends, like, what else could I do? Because this guy is telling me this, and I'm not going to buy it. So I started going to energy healing. And when I went to my first energy healer, I felt this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I felt really connected to that. So then I started down this path of becoming a Reiki master, continuing to teach yoga, training people in Reiki. Then I learned, I trained in Beyond Quantum Healing, which is like a regression type of therapy. And I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, where I am right now with my best friend. We started a business together. And then after about 3 years of that, we decided that was not working because we were trying to accommodate each other too much. So just in this past fall, I've taken everything that I've been learning the last 10 years and putting it into my own business with my own name and training people really how to tap into that inner wisdom. So there's another kind of side story here, which is I was in high school and I was taking this physics class, which I freaking hated. But this guy, supposedly, according to, the rumors around school, the teacher was a certified genius. I mean, who knows? But he would do the lesson and then he would put us into groups to work. And I just was lost. And I think most of the people in the class were kind of lost. And we would go up to him and ask him about a question about the homework. And he would say, you know. I mean, he did that to us over and over again. But it's so seared into my mind now that part of me knows that that was like a message. Deep down, you do know. And there are studies that kind of show this. They did a study with the Heart Math Institute where what that helps you bring your heart and your mind into coherence. And they had, I don't know, it was like 600 or 800 high school students take the SAT. And then half of them studied and half of them did the heart-mind coherence practice, which is essentially breathing and getting yourself to calm down. And so the second half did not study. And they took the test again, and the half that did the breathing did better than the half that studied. So there is this idea of the getting calm, getting centered, and kind of accessing your own inner wisdom. I like to call it your inner oracle, where you have that confidence and that connection, and for you to know what's best for you, because most of us are running around trying to accommodate the rest of the world and accommodate our families, our society, what we think we should be doing, what everyone else is doing, especially if you're running your own business. It's so hard to get on Instagram or whatever and be like, everyone's doing all of these things and look how cool that is. And then start down that path of doing something someone else is doing and then just realizing it's not aligned to you. So I think one of the hardest things is to A, admit that to yourself, and B, to go, okay, I see that so-and-so is doing this. Does that seem like something I'd want to be doing? And really kind of tuning in and aligning with that. And so I have a free thing on my website. It's like, let your inner oracle be in charge. And it's just a 3-phase process with all these audios and practices where you can start to use these specific protocols to make decisions for yourself. Because we're making, according to science, 35,000 decisions a day.
Oh,
now,
yikes.
I don't recommend doing this for every decision because you would never get anything done, but the big decisions. And then eventually when you get enough hang of it, you can even make this decision with what you're eating, with when to work out, what kind of workout to do. Because I've been, you think, oh, I should go do CrossFit. And then I'm thinking, okay, what does my body really think about that? My body's like, are you high? That will be miserable. So it's so much of that getting into center, getting quiet and tuning into yourself. And then practicing, that's part of the 3-phase process, is actually practicing. It's a skill. It's just like learning to play the piano. You have to keep doing it and reinforcing it and practicing it so that you feel more confident. And so it is a process, but that's my whole story.
I love that. And I have to ask, can you go have brunch now?
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't get to that. Yes. Okay. So I don't really know what shifted it. Well, okay. 2 things. See, I tell this whole story. I'm not a good storyteller, by the way. So let me finalize the story. That food allergy made me realize that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so that's what ultimately led me to quit my job of teaching and then shift my career and go into yoga and Reiki and all that other stuff. Because what I started doing back then, which is now what I'm teaching, is I would say, okay, maybe it's the school. So I'd imagine myself going to another school and applying, and I knew immediately that wasn't right. I could feel it. I also told myself, backup plan, I'll just work at Starbucks. I mean, like I gave myself some kind of comfort to know that I was going to be okay and land. But back to the food, what I did was I went to this guy, and he is a retired anesthesiologist in Indianapolis, and he looks like Santa Claus. And he does this system called NAET, and it's an allergy elimination technique where you hold these vials in your hands. So he basically listens to your story and intuitively picks out these vials, and they're like cat dander, certain types of flowers, eggs. So you hold them and he puts needles in, just like acupuncture, for 20 minutes. And then you're supposed to stay away from that stuff for a day. And I did that maybe 3 times. But he told me when I first went in there, he's like, you don't need me. You could actually heal yourself. And he handed me Louise Hay's, I think it's like, you can heal yourself or you can heal your life book. And so I did a few of those sessions. I don't remember specifically when I decided to put eggs in my mouth again, but eventually I did. And I kept getting my blood tested because my dad was really worried about that. So I kept getting my blood tested for a year, even though I knew it was fine because I felt fine. What it felt like was having food poisoning off and on for weeks. It was awful. So I do eat eggs. I basically eat whatever I want now. I think a milkshake might hurt my stomach. But besides that, yeah, it cleared all the way up. And so I think for people that are struggling with any kind of issue like that, when you go into the doctor, I've watched this documentary called Heal. I don't know if anyone out there has seen it, but they basically say there's the diagnosis, and there's the prognosis. So the diagnosis was you can't eat eggs. Well, I believed that because I felt miserable. But the diagnosis was you'll never be able to eat eggs again. And I decided not to accept that. And I think that that's like taking your own power and realizing that things are not permanent. And if you accept something as permanent, then it will be permanent. So that's my speech for the day. That's my sermon is wherever you're at right now, it's not permanent. You can shift it, you can change it, and you just have to decide and take the steps.
Yes, I 100% agree. I had a similar experience where they did all the testing, and this was back in the day where they faxed you things. And on my fax, it said, the first page was, "We're really sorry to give this to you." And it was every single thing that they had tested me for was the most extreme allergy, and they're like, stay away from it. I couldn't drink tap water for a while because of the chlorine in the tap water. It was bad. So I totally get that, but it was the moment I woke up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that tuning into self and listening to your body will tell you so much. If you, like you said, get calm, get present. I think that's one of the big things about unlocking your superpowers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, you mentioned the superpowers. I do have a quiz. You'd be able to take it from within that freebie that I sent, but it's all about how, like, how you, they're based on the clairs, like clairvoyant, clairaudient, and it's how you get the information. And so I think for everyone, you're going to have kind of this first, your most like inherent clear that you're most used to or that's most prevalent, but I do think you can learn the other ones. So I would say that mine would be claircognizance, clear knowing, where you just know something, you don't know why you know it, but you just know. You have no evidence. But that voice, that no, was actually, I would consider that in the clairaudient category because it really felt like almost like outside of me. But yeah, so, and I think with the superpowers, that what I really like to focus on is getting people to tune into that inner knowing. And that's going to come forward in a lot of different ways for people. So that whole package that I told you about, the freebie, is going to kind of take you through the ability to take that quiz and figure out where do you start? Like, what's the first thing? And how do you recognize how you're getting this inner wisdom and inner knowing? And I'm sure that people listening can point to times when something happened and they're like, I knew that was going to happen. So it's those kinds of things to start to hang on to, because those are the little proofs that you have right now that you do have this ability. And now what you're going to do is like crank it, turn the dial up, and make it be something that you have access to more often for more situations. And, we kind of talked before we started about that the effect other people have on you, and the like almost like being overly pleasing to the people around you and trying to bend to what they want. A lot of what this is you kind of shutting all of that off and saying, one of my friends, the one I was in business with earlier, she would go to yoga class and she would feel like a knee pain in her knee and realize that, the guy next to her who always is in the class too has this knee pain. So she started saying, "Your shit, my mat." Like, that's your stuff, this is mine. And just that thought, that's yours, I'm me, can help start to shift things really quickly. And so that you're separating what is going on with that person versus what's actually going on with me. And so I think that's kind of one of the main pieces here, is finding that separation between they've got their stuff, I have my stuff, what's really mine? And you can even ask yourself that, close your eyes, is this mine? And just see what comes forward. And then sometimes if I'm not sure, I just say, if this isn't mine, I don't want to feel it anymore. I don't want to deal with it. Like, send it back to them, send it to the earth, just send it somewhere else. I don't want to process that for that person. Yeah.
I love that. And that's one of my favorite questions to myself right now. Is this mine? Like, does this even feel good? And it's changed everything. Like I was telling you, my goal is by the end of 2022 to be off social media, because I had been with so many business coaches. And I mean, I've dropped six figures, I'll be honest, on business coaches and courses. And I realized the strategy didn't even feel good.
Right.
Like, in building business, it didn't feel good. Like, not only was it showing up in my body where I was sick and I couldn't lift my arm, but it was like, didn't feel good. So I think that's a great point that you're making of like, is this mine?
Right. And yeah, and to do that even with your business. And I think, I always go back and forth, because I do think you can get an idea that sparks by looking at something else, but it's still going through that filter of, is this for me? Is this mine? Is this going to light me up? Because really what you want is to bring your authentic self forward, which I know people use that word a lot and it just seems like it's kind of cliche, but if you think about the people that are really themselves, or at least that at least it seems like they're being themselves. I love Taylor Swift. I do think that she kind of puts it all out there, and people line up to be around someone that is in alignment, because when you are just fully yourself, then the other people out there are drawn to that and connect with that. And so telling your story, because other people go, yeah, I told, just like you just did. You're like, that exact thing happened to me. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, we're soul sisters. I feel it, you know? And so you really just start to build those connections, because there's so many people on the planet. You don't need that many people to build a successful business. And so you're just looking for your tribe, your team, and the people that connect with you. And so the more you can be you, the more you're going to energetically connect with those other people.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I feel that. And that's why podcasting is, for me, has been like this amazing thing, because I get to have one-on-one conversations with people. It actually feels authentic. I actually get to hear like, ooh, you were so allergic to eggs. You thought you had to give up brunch at some point. Like, I would have been devastated, and that just, for me, hearing your story, even like the testing thing. I remember I had to take a math test, and I was like, I had to have anesthesia like earlier that day, so I didn't study. I aced the thing. Like, people were like, you were like drooling on yourself. You were still coming out of anesthesia, because I had like this weird procedure done, and I got the best grade in the class. Like, the teacher's like, I don't know how you did it, because we couldn't even understand you. And it took your mind out of it. It allowed your body and that inner knowing to be, hey, this is it. So if somebody is struggling with that inner knowing and that purpose, what is something that you suggest to kind of get them present so they can start letting that out? I know that you use a cardology, which I have no idea what that is, and we'll have to talk about that. But how would somebody who is so scattered kind of come back and start listening to this inner knowing?
Well, I will tie cardology in for just a second. So it's just taking that connection to yourself, and it kind of, we get this idea that you're supposed to meditate for an hour a day, but really what I see it as is you're trying to keep your energy levels level throughout the day. So if you, to give yourself time to let the mind actually wander. So, and then the scattered, jumping from thought to thought to thought, I have a lot of experience with that. That is, generally speaking, I work with your soul. I think your inner wisdom is connected to your soul. So your higher self, if you want to call it. So you could get that time, which is the most boring thing you could possibly ever do. And so, but it's focusing on, in that kind of situation, focusing on the love that's around it. Like, they loved me, so they went to these, versus focusing on how much they hate and how bored they are. So it's kind of rerouting your perspective when you're doing things that you aren't like super excited to be doing. But as far as your purpose and making money, and Jennifer said there's a lot of like business people listening to this. So if you're trying to find your purpose with your business, it's really just taking that time to journal and spend that quiet time and reflect back on the things you've done in the past that you don't like doing, and look at the things other people are doing, and then project yourself, pretend like you're doing that, and see if you like it. So I kind of call it like future project. And that's one of the things I do in the freebie that I have, but there was a really simple way to do it, which is pretend like you're going to a restaurant that you hate and ordering food that you hate, and feel that in your body. And then go to a restaurant you love and order food you love, and feel that in your body. So there's usually like this constriction and an expansion. And so you're chasing the expansion, the opening, the freedom, the space. And anything that you're doing that's pushing inward, squeezing onto you, making you feel tighter, is what you're trying to move away from. Did that answer your question?
It did. And my follow-up question to that is, if someone were, let's say, really good at something, and whatever it was they were really good at, the thing kept coming to them, and it led to a life of abundance, but it was feeling really restrictive. Is that their soul calling, or is it just something that they're good at and the restriction is something that they should pivot from, or explore the pivot, I should say? We're not telling you to go out and just quit your job.
Right.
We're not telling you that. Disclaimer. Like,
one step at a time.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. There's sort of like this 3-column thing you could do, which is what you're good at, your skills and talents, your passions, and then your hobbies. Um, for me, like I used to be a high school Spanish teacher. I was really good at it. It's not really a life of abundance, but it's solid. And but I it wasn't fulfilling me, so I moved away from it. So I would say, even if you're making a lot of money, and that's the hard part, right? Is when you get into the situation and you're making a lot of money, how do you pivot away from something where it's, well, I would guess, just based on people I've talked to and stories that I've heard, that eventually the money will start to dry up as well. Because you're not feeling passionate about it. So starting to explore what you are passionate about and give yourself time, because I also think when you start to make decisions like this, or you start to kind of play with this, there's like a recalibration that has to happen in your physical body that actually takes time, physical time. So allow yourself to imagine and play with what that would look like. And in the meantime, if you're making a lot of money, save some of it up so you can buy yourself some time. But I don't know, it's really personal. It's like some people have a lot of responsibilities that they have to be caring for children, caring for their family. So that makes it a lot more complicated. But to me, I believe that if you're following your passion, it's going to bring abundance to you. So I would definitely explore pivoting. But there is probably some inner work you might have to do around letting go of the stability of what you have at the current moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I just asked because I know that that's part of your story, was you pivoted out of something that was stable and you moved into opening a business with a partner, which is, I couldn't imagine going from, I was in accounting for 18 years. Yeah, 18 years. Oh my goodness. Yes, 18 years of my life was in accounting. And I was like, this isn't for me. And one morning I was like, I quit. Here's my 2-week notice. No plan, no nothing. Yeah. But it was just me. And I couldn't imagine like doing that and then having a partnership to go into business with. Like, that's huge. Yeah. That's why I asked the question, is that I know from your experience that you made this shift and you allowed that passion to come through and to keep changing as your body led you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't really have a plan. So the business with my partner, my friend, came up years later. When I quit my job, the only thing I had going was really teaching yoga. So it was almost like not a choice to quit. I don't know if you felt that way when you did. It was like, I did explore, like, okay, what if I went to this other school or whatever? And I'm like, I can't live like this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I don't care. I don't know what else is going to happen, but I'm out. And so it was sort of like, yeah, the only way I can explain it is it was a choice, but it wasn't a choice, So I think that when you follow that kind of leap, then, whatever, there's that phrase, like, take the leap and the net will appear. That was what I had written everywhere when I did that, because there was just part of me that knew I was not in alignment with what my soul came here for. And so I just was like, I have to jump. And the other thing that actually brought me a lot of comfort was I used to do this a lot. And it's sort of like the beginning of your inner oracle, which is, what would the 90-year-old version of you say about this? And immediately I was like, yeah, quit. I could feel it. So taking that other perspective, if you're at the end of your life and you read those stories, or they've done kind of some studies, they've been asking people that are at the end of their life, what is important? And none of them say, just staying at that job that you hated for 20 years, So it's trying to get that other perspective when you're making those kinds of decisions too.
That's awesome. And I think it's so funny that you mentioned 90-year-olds, because I was talking to my grandma, who happened to be turning 90, who was like, you need to quit, Jennifer. You can't do this anymore. It's making you miserable. This is why you're sick. If I could go back. Yeah. Like, I actually had a person telling me that.
A real life 90-year-old. Right.
So it's true. It's what they're saying. And that's one of the things that helped me jump without a net, without any plan at all.
Yeah.
I love that. So where can people, we keep talking about this freebie, where can people find this freebie?
They can go to my website. It's lauratheintuitive.com, and it's right on the front page. And you can also look in the menu, you'll find Cardology, the place to look up your cards. And we didn't get to this, but there is. So the cards are laid out in 2 spreads, and they look kind of like the periodic table of elements. And when you look at one card and another card where they're related to each other, how they're related to each other on the spreads, there are planetary energies between them. So like two people will have Saturn and maybe Venus between them. And that means that their relationship is kind of in the container of Saturn and Venus. And there's nothing you can do to change those energies, but you can work with them. And so we have reports that teach you how to deal with those energies. So Saturn, for example, would be like a classroom. It would also be stable. You might feel like one person's teaching the other, or you're both teaching each other. It's not the most fun energy, but it actually, there are quite a lot of long-term relationships that have it because of the stability it brings. Venus is all yummy, lovely. And there's really nothing wrong with Venus other than you might end up getting kind of lazy together and lay around on the couch. So I'm always looking up cards for people. I don't know if you watched We Crashed, but I'm currently watching We Crashed on Apple, which has Jared Leto in it. And I can't remember her name, but it's about the people that started WeWork, the co-working spaces. Train wreck. It's such a good story. But I'm like, oh, what is their relationship like? And what are their cards? And it just always makes so much sense with how we interact with each other and with the way we behave and how we interact with other people. And so there's so much wisdom in the cards. I love them. So that's all on my website as well. And I do experiences too. I'm doing a regular inner oracle, yin yoga, and Reiki class where you can. Yin yoga is basically like yoga napping. You just lay around in poses. So you don't really need experience, but it would be that one thing that would give you the space to get quiet and like tune into that inner oracle. And I also have regular courses that I do that help train you how to do it. So it's what I'm really wanting to do is train people on how to do this and be comfortable in making those decisions and really kind of in the moment be able to feel what it is you're supposed to be, what it is you need to decide for yourself. So there's all kinds of stuff. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under Laura the Intuitive as well.
Yeah. I love that. I'm like really excited. I'm like, I have to know. I love all the things. Like I found out 2 years ago that my human design was manifesting generator with a 6-3. So I'm a role model and a martyr. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. This is why I'm having to try out all these horrible things in my life so that I could be a role model for people to not have to go through this.
Yes, exactly.
It was just the more I have to find the card thing because
what's your month?
7/1.
Okay, I'm gonna look. Oh, I should know this off the top of my head because July 4th is the Jack of Diamonds, which is funny because that's the United States' card and it's the entrepreneur card. Okay, you're the Ace of Spades, 3 of Diamonds. Okay. Also, you're Cancer, so that's all the like feels of all the feelings.
Oh yes.
The Ace of Spades, Jennifer Aniston is an Ace of Spades. It's actually like one of the channeling cards. It's actually the card that represents the cards. So aces also bring information down. So you're the distinctive alchemist. Open-minded, iconic, pioneering, and beloved. You're a caretaker, but you want to know the secret formula behind how something works. You have a lot of relationship karma to be clearing in this lifetime. Could be amazing, could not be amazing. And we call it the distinctive alchemist because you can transform the world around you and because you're unforgettable. You need to let go of holding on to deep wounds, choosing relationships that aren't healthy, and allowing your sensitivity to rule your life. Now, the thing about this too is people may feel removed from you because you might guard your privacy. And that's actually true. You have a second card, which is the 3 of Diamonds. It's a long story, but that's true of the second 3 of Diamonds too. Kind of keeping some things close to the vest. But for people around you, what they might be learning from you is how to honor yourself and set boundaries. So it also says you expect your friends, families, and lovers to be impeccable and honorable with you. You are like a powerful dragon, undaunted, authoritative, and effective, but you have a soft and vulnerable underbelly that few see. Once you learn how to value yourself, you will easily be able to eliminate anyone that's not in alignment with you out of your life, which might be hard. It's like one of these big transitions you have to go through. Does that sound right for you?
100%. And my last name is Dragonette, and I grew up being called Little Dragon. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about spot on. I am the Cancer shell on the outside or the dragon on the outside, but and I can be cute and cuddly. I can be Puff the Magic Dragon, or I could be that fire breathing dragon.
That's awesome.
I'm like, it all fits. It's just, And it's so interesting that this is the conversation, because I've been stuck in this, okay, well, do I keep the business running as it is, or do I shift into this? Because I'm a Reiki master and like teacher. I'm, a yoga teacher. I'm all the things. I'm a, in a integrative health coach and NLP practitioner, EFT practitioner. Like I have all these trainings, and I went from accounting to production.
Wow.
So analytical to analytical, and I'm still hiding that, the squishy insides are being hidden by the dragon on the outside.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Do you mind me asking how old you are?
How old am I? 30, am I 38 or 39? I am 38. I will be 39 this year.
Yeah. So, we go through these 7-year cycles. So you're hitting one in a few years again. And then, but with the cards also, they start over at 45. So you're kind of getting into this period where it's going to probably be pushing you more and more and more the direction you're kind of saying. And it's like, there's almost like this complete reset you can do around, and there's something going on in astrology too, usually between 40 and 42. So there's like this, you're coming up to this big window of time where you're going to be pushed to make big changes. So, but you're already kind of thinking about it. Yeah. And you would, as an ace, you would like that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, yay. I'm like, everybody knows me as the pivot queen. I mean, if somebody's been in my space for the last, since I jumped out of accounting, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing today, Jen?
Right.
Sorry.
I love it.
It's so interesting. And I love that you're bringing this to people, because to me, it made me feel like when I did the human design reading, I felt like it was a permission slip to be myself.
Yes, exactly.
And sometimes we need that permission to be ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we fight it because we're trying to fit into these damn trends and be like somebody else and be like, oh yeah, she's doing this and has the lifestyle. Yeah, you're watching her highlight reel.
Right.
Everybody watches my highlight reel. My mentor just met me in real life, and she's like, how did I not know this about you? You were pretty boring until I met you. And I was like, that at that moment, I was like, okay, I thought I was being authentic online, but obviously I was not.
Right.
And, she's like, you need to be showing up with your shotgun in one hand and a tutu and a paintbrush and a microphone. Like, that's you in a nutshell. And she's like, I didn't even know that like we hunt for our food. Like that's what we do in our household. Yeah.
Oh my God, where do you live?
I live in Northern California.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's awesome.
But for me, it's one of those things I don't like the way that meat is treated.
Yeah.
And because I'm such an energetic person and I absorb all these energies, I was like, why am I always so angry? Well, when I took out a lot of farm raised meats, my anger went down. My fear went down. So for me, it's just, again, it's getting to know yourself and anything that'll give you permission to be a little bit more you. And it sounds like these cards.
Oh my God, they're so good.
Magic.
Well, and I think the other thing too is it's almost like sometimes you don't know you. Okay, so for example, I have 4 younger sisters. They're 2 sets of twins, all fraternal. And so when I grew up in a small town, so everyone thought that, like everyone knew since the youngest ones were born. It's like everybody knew it. There were 2 sets of twins, so no one made a big deal of it. But when I started going to college and telling people about it, they would be like, what? There are what? They would have these strong reactions. And I thought, oh yeah, that is kind of weird. But if you're just you and you're used to you, it's really hard to see the contrast between who you are and I don't know if I'm going to explain this right. And between who you are and like how other people would see that, until sometimes you read these things on paper or someone does an astrology reading for you and you're like, oh, it's like what was inside is coming out and now you're able to look at it. And you just weren't even aware. It's like, yeah, bringing it into your consciousness, I guess would be the best way to say it. You're not even aware that you are that until you see it on paper or someone says, oh, this could be you. This is your astrology reading. This is your cardiology report. Like, oh, that is me. And you can see it outside of yourself. So I think that's really important. And then you get the permission, the validation, say, oh yeah, I'm not crazy. There it is on paper. And so I do think these things are so powerful in helping us find our purpose and kind of get more aligned with what we're doing.
Yes, 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 yes. So if you're out there struggling, you need to get into any one of the spaces that, if you want to re-mention them, either your website, you said Facebook and Instagram. I will get them
Mhm.
all in the show notes because Laura needs to be in your life. You need to have your cards read because you need a permission slip because this, even if you don't get the permission slip from one of us, this is your permission to be more yourself. Again,
Yeah.
you have permission to be you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the key is not being afraid to just be all of you with whatever you're doing. So whether it's your business, because like when you were talking about posting online, not being yourself, to me it's like this is my business, so these are businessy things, and like my shotgun is not businessy, but it's also meaning you're separating who you really are from your business, which what we're all trying to kind of blend those things together, so that when you're really in alignment with your business and yourself, it's all just kind of one thing and it's all you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So if someone were to walk away with just that one like mic drop, I'm out moment, what would that be?
Um, it's the taking of the space, and actually, I'm kind of seeing this like, like drawing a circle around yourself in the sand. It's pushing all the stuff kind of out away from you so that you have an energetic field around you that's clear. And it feels like a lot of your audience, that's kind of the biggest thing that they could do is get centered and then send everything out away from you a little bit further so that you have some physical space around you, but energetic space and mental space. I don't know if that's really that clear, but if you just close your eyes and just imagine all your crap that's driving you nuts shifting away from you about 3 feet, and just know that you have that space around you to exist